Welcome, everybody, to the September 23rd meeting of the Kiwanis Club of Raleigh. Please join me in our defining statement. Kiwanis is a global organization of volunteers dedicated to improving the world, one child and one community at a time. By special request, Clay Taylor is going to lead a patriotic song for us today.
My country, 'tis a big, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. The land where my fathers died, land of the hillside, from every mountainside, let freedom.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Frank Manson has our invocation today.
I was so inspired by our speaker last week, I decided that we needed a prayer from Abraham Lincoln. There are remarkably few that have been preserved. However, in February of 1861, Abraham Lincoln said, "I do not deny the possibility that the people may err in an election, but if they do, the true cure is in the next election." That's not the prayer. Almighty God, who has given us this good land for our heritage, we humbly beseech thee that we may always prove ourselves a people mindful of thy favor and glad to do thy will. Bless our land with honorable ministry, sound learning, and pure manners. Save us from violence, discord, and confusion, from pride, arrogance, and from every evil way. Bend our liberties and fashion into one united people, the multitude brought hither out of many kindreds and tongues. Endow with thy spirit of wisdom those whom in thy name we entrust the authority of government, that there may be justice and peace at home, and that through obedience to thy law we may show forth thy praise among the nations of the earth. In time of prosperity, fill our hearts with thankfulness, and in the day of trouble, suffer not our trust in thee to fail. All of which we ask in God's name. Amen.
We have a number of guests today, so who wants to do the introductions?
I have Dr. Adams is going to be speaking today, and his wife Jerry, George, and Judy Weinbrenner, Peggy, and Josh, all of them here today.
Good afternoon. Guest this time is Jason Tyson. Jason came last week too. Is the communications director, Department of Insurance. Grew up in Fayetteville, UNCW, master's or at graduate degree at Wake Forest, and his father was a Kiwanian in Fayetteville. So second visit. Be sure to talk to him. Thank you.
Okay, great. We have one membership welfare item. Randy Hartley is doing well after his surgery for prostate cancer. He's home and in recovery. I believe he's home. Yes, he was discharged this morning. He's recovering well. He's not quite up to phone calls, but please think about him, and hopefully we'll be seeing him in person here within 6 to 8 weeks. Maybe we'll see him on Zoom next week. A couple of announcements. Milburnie Night, October 20th. You've got stands on your table with upcoming events. This is about a week later than normal during the year. But October 20th, please sign up. There are sign-up sheets on the tables as well. If you'd like to attend, we'd love to have you. Pancake Breakfast is coming up October 22nd. Tickets are still in the back with Rocky and Cricket. And we still need sponsors and raffle items. And Gwen Bass is managing volunteers. She's got a quick announcement.
Yes, we've got the sign-up sheets right over here as well by Cricket and Rocky. So please stop by while you're here today, so I won't have to stress about the numbers that we need. We need about 60 more people to sign up to volunteer. And if you are going to be in the kitchen or cooking or serving food, you will need to wear masks. So keep that in mind when you sign up. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gwen. Any other announcements today? Did I miss anything? Bill
I've got
Whitley.
one. Yes. I just wanted to let everybody know that our raffle ticket effort, we're going to be selling raffle tickets, not next week's meeting, but the 2 meetings after that. So we'll be selling them at these meetings and then also at Melbourne night. So we'll want you to come prepared to buy raffle tickets. And we have some really good prizes. We have a VIP night with all the accompaniments to the Mannheim Steamroller show at DPAC. We have gift cards to restaurants like Second Empire Restaurant Tavern, Angus Barn. We have show tickets to the North Carolina Symphony, North Carolina Opera, and many other prizes. So I would say, because we've got just a little bit more time, if you have a prize that you would like to donate, let us know. But it's a really good lineup, and we're looking forward to having a great raffle, both beforehand at these meetings, but also at the pancake breakfast itself. Thanks, Sandra.
Thank you. Just 1 month from now, folks. At this point, I'll turn it over to Lou Murray, who's going to introduce our speaker.
You know, normally resumes start with the last job that a person had, but I'm starting from the beginning. I want to introduce to you my greatest doctor, Robert Stark Adams, Jr., MD, MDA. Sounds like a really great thing, however, but that's only half of the story. He graduated from Naval Academy, became a Navy SEAL, completed jump school, and after 14 years in the Navy, he was with the USS Hamina ship and ended up being commander of the Navy SEAL team. He wanted to be a doctor. The Navy would only give him 2 years of med school. The Army gave him 4, and guess where he went? He went to Wake Forest Med School. Then he commanded many clinics. At one time, he was at the Womack Army Medical Center, the chief of Department of Deployment Health for soldiers and women going to combat and coming back. He became the command surgeon for Delta Force. He also commanded Robertson Health Clinic for 18,000 soldiers and families at 82nd Airborne at Fort Bragg. He deployed to Iraq 2003, 2004 with the 82nd Airborne Division. He built and operated combat clinics there. He developed the first medical conference for 25 years for 700 Iraqi physicians concerning on changes of medical specialties. He also brought in about 32 or 34 doctors to teach them what needs to be done. He retired as a colonel, U.S. Army Medical Corps. He came to this area and started working at Nightdale Medical Treatment Place. Dr. Adams then designed and built the way he wanted it. Nightdale Family Medicine, currently operated by UNC Physicians Network. On the board of directors of Veterans Life Center in Butner, North Carolina, provided housing and career training for 100 men and women for life transition from the military. He was on the board of directors at Institute for Medical Research to address health care issues of mental illness and treatment. He published many things. The one that I know he likes, and I would like too, is Fish Alaska, The Final Drift, fishing stories that he has come up with there. Published Medical Doctors, New Approach. Several articles concerning medical issues. Family Medicine Internet Group Leadership Award, National Congress of Student Members, 1990. First prize, 1991, North Carolina Medical Society Student Essay on Medical Education. The Robert Vendinghoff Memorial Award, Field of Medical Practice at Bowman Gray School of Medicine, 1991. There are many things on this resume that I'm not even coming close to saying them yet. A few things here that I think are very important. He has the Army Order of Merit Medal Merit Award, Lifetime Achievement, Legion of Merit, Bronze Star Medal, Naval Special Warfare, SEAL, Army Master Parachute Badge, Army Flight Surgeon Badge, and many, many other awards that he has received. Certification, American Board of Family Medicine, board certified, North Carolina medical license. He's on 7 different memberships in this area, which I wouldn't even begin to start on all of that. But something else I think is very important. He has written 3 books, and those books normally cost $15, but for the Kiwanians today, it's only $10 if you want to purchase one. These 3 books, one of them called My Dear Sarah. His great-great-grandfather was a corporal in General Grant's headquarters in the war between the states. And he would write letters to his girlfriend, which later became his wife. And somewhere along the way, they kept all these letters. And Dr. Bob ended up having them and had them printed into a book, and it must be incredible. Another one is 6 Days of Impossible, which happened to be, they call it Hell Week with Navy SEALs, an outstanding book. And then the stories called Swords and Saints, the doctor's journal about what he did in the way and what he found out in combat and what happened. The most important thing that I want to tell you is this: he's a doctor, he's a military man, but most importantly, he's a great person. And I am so thankful that I call him my greatest doctor ever. Dr. Adams.
I'm gonna have to cut my talk short after all of that. He told half of my stories. But, you know, when he invited me to do, when he invited me to do this talk, I said, well, you know, what's the purpose of the talk? And we settled on entertainment. So I want to tell you some stories about my 36 years in uniform and my 31 years as a doctor. Of course, there's overlap there. That might surprise and amuse you, make you go, really? That happens to people? So, you know, and I'll start out by saying, when I look back on the choices that I've made in my life that led me to medicine, which is what mostly I'm going to talk about in my most recent book, The Swords and Saints, a Doctor's Journey book, because it's 72 chapters of individual stories that make you go, oh, really? You know, that happens? Yep. Because I wanted people that are interested in medicine to know what it's like to be a doctor, how hard it is to become a doctor, how expensive it is. And so it starts as a medical student and it goes on, but the theme at the beginning and end of my book and in this talk is primum non nocere, which is Hippocrates' most famous instruction to doctors of his day: first, do no harm. And I learned early on how important that was, because as you all know, the medical system we live in right now is pretty close to broken. And the hardest thing that any doctor has to do at the start of a day is make sure in the process of helping, trying to help, that you do no harm. And that was Hippocrates' instruction to doctors. And I didn't decide to become a doctor until 36 years old. Well, 33. It took me 3 years to get there. And, I came home to my wife and I said, I'm here and we're living in DC now, which we both didn't love. And I'm in a job as an MBA. I'd gotten my MBA in James Madison University where I met my lovely wife. And she was pregnant with our second child when I said, I think I want to go to medical school. And she goes, say what? Because, we just kind of started a family. I said, that means 7 years of abject poverty and a lot of hard work. She goes, well, we were poor and happy when we got married, and we can be poor and happy again. So please go do what makes you happy. Come home and hug our children. Because I wasn't happy as an MBA working as a consultant in DC, even though I was working in the Navy SEAL arenas, because it was all about money. And I learned early on that money has no morals. And that, you can be successful making money, but not feel real good about it. And that was kind of the position I found myself in. So, with her blessing, we became poor and we went to medical school, and my children never knew we were poor. It was just kind of a great achievement. We have friends over for a DVD movie and a home cup popcorn and play goofy golf on our days off for 75 cents each. And when it was all over, kids came back later on. Were we poor? We lived in a little tiny house. Yeah, we were poor. You didn't know it though, did you? And that's because of the wonderful woman I married who took care of our kids and didn't see much of me, because I would go to work when the sun wasn't up yet and come back when the sun was down. And, there's a period of time there where the kids didn't see their dad very much. But I chose to do it with her encouragement because she knew and I knew that it's probably going to be something that I would love. And it turned out I loved it. I've loved every day of it. I'm still practicing today. And every time that I get to help somebody else and do no harm, it's a wonderful next day. The other question that always comes up, which Lou pretty much answered for me, was, so why'd you go into the military to be a doctor? And why did you join the Army? And the military decision was something that my wife really never quite understood. It's because she's born and raised in Harrisonburg, Virginia, Shenandoah Valley, and with a lot of military experience. But I had changed to the reserve SEAL teams to go back to school and get my MBA, seeking my fortune elsewhere might be good during the post-Vietnam drawdown period. And I missed it terribly. I missed being in uniform, and I hadn't been out 6 months before I called them back up and said, let me back in. You know what? They don't have free health care out here, and they don't give you 30 days of paid vacation. Let me back in. They went, well, love to have you, Lieutenant, but, there's no wars. Stay in the reserve. We'll call you when we need you. Well, that didn't happen. The next war didn't happen until 1987, which was the day I raised my hand as a commander in the SEAL teams to accept a commission as a second lieutenant in the Army. And I was sworn in by a Rear Admiral, Navy guy, who, after he swore me in, he goes, Bob, we usually congratulate our health profession scholarship program recipients when they get in the military, but I just turned a Navy SEAL commander into an Army second lieutenant, and I cannot bring myself to congratulate you. True story. But it turned out to be an absolutely delightful experience. I loved Wake Forest for the 4 years I was there. And during the summers in medical school as a military scholarship recipient, you get to go to visit different residency programs for 1 month and on active duty and interview with them and see where you're going to go for residency. Well, the best family practice residency program in the Army is in Washington State at Madigan Army Medical Center, Tacoma, Washington. I wanted to go there. So in my third year, I went there, met everybody, shook everybody's hands, tried to impress them, wore my bangles and beads, even though it still said second lieutenant. And they said, we like you, you're considered. I went back again on my fourth year, which you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to go somewhere else. And the colonel calls me and he goes, Bob, you're supposed to go somewhere else. Yeah, sir, but you understand, when I fill out my residency selection, it's going to say Madigan and kill me, kill me, kill me. And he goes, okay, all right, reasonable. This is your first choice and only choice. Yep, we're going to give it a try. And so, I'm a little older now. I'm 38, 39 years old, getting in medical school, getting ready to try to find a residency program. And I'm thinking to myself, how can I pull this off? Because he pulled me aside. He goes, Bob, we like you. You're a nice guy. You're competitive, but you're not the smartest guy that's going to apply to this program. Look at your scores and your board things and all that stuff. Yeah. And I told him, I said, sir, I'm not going to be the smartest doctor you bring into this program. I promise. I'll be the best when you graduate. He goes, pretty good answer. I'll consider it. And then I'm thinking, all right, what else can I do? And 3 weeks into this final rotation, I rented a pair of scuba tanks, went into Hood Canal, filled up a cooler full of great big Dungeness crabs, called the colonel and said, Colonel, you said us medical students could call you when we had a problem. Oh, yes, I do, sir. What's wrong? Well, I've got a cooler full of Dungeness crabs and no place to cook them. And he pauses and he goes, and what time can I expect you? And I got the residency program. So sometimes a little experience, a little older, a little wiser comes in handy. But after I got that residency, which was absolutely delightful, I got orders to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which was my request because that's the only place in the Army that doctors jump out of airplanes. And so they said, okay, you're jump qualified, static line, free fall, you already wear the master parachute is bad, you can go to Fort Bragg. And so we arrive, get settled into our home in the late summer of 1994. And a lot of people don't know this little bit of history that I want to share with you. 2 or 3 months after we arrived on Fort Bragg, I'm working in a clinic, and the lady says, there's somebody on the phone for you. Yes. And said, sir, this is Sergeant so-and-so, the 82nd Airborne. You need to stop what you're doing right now and report to the 2nd of the 325 Air Infantry Regiment immediately. I'm going, oh, this is not good. Roger that, because all doctors are assigned to a wartime unit in case there's a war. Best of my knowledge, there wasn't any war, but all of a sudden I was being mobilized the 82nd. I get there and they said, you got 48 hours to go get all your gear, report back here, because in 48 hours, 3,500 paratroopers and 64 jump aircraft are going to launch from Pope Air Force Base, and you're in jump aircraft number 1 with the unit commander who specifically requested you because you wear that Navy SEAL thing on your Army uniform, and he figures you can shoot and put bandages on him. So I said, oh, okay, and 48 hours later, 3,500 paratroopers and 64 jump aircraft launched to Haiti. And why this is not well known in the news is 2 hours after we launched, Colin Powell sat down with the president of Haiti and said, okay, here's what's going to go on. President just authorized me to tell you 2 hours ago the 82nd Airborne launched, and they'll be here in 2 more. And when they get here, they're going to kill you and all your people, all your soldiers. Or you can take $1 million and flight out of here and call it quits now. And he took the $1 million and the flight out, and they turned around 64 jump aircraft and brought us all back. That goes down in my life as one of the scariest things I've ever had to endure, because we're all, the board comes down going, mission canceled, returning to base. Nobody said a thing. It was just like, because we're locked and loaded, live ammo and the whole bit, and I got a 60-pound rucksack with chest tubes and IVs and everything in between my legs. And now we're not going to war, and we're not going to jump onto a cement drop zone covered with obstacles. And so it's a good news, bad news kind of thing. But then I had this vision of 64 jump aircraft in the middle of the night turning around and coming back and landing. I'm going, okay, do it safely, boys. But anyway, that was, in my opinion, the 82nd Airborne should have got a presidential unit citation for that, because that's the only time we ever won a war without firing a shot. But we didn't get it. Anyway, soon after that, back to work, running clinics, delivering babies, having the time of my life as a doctor, the Delta Force guys came knocking. Would you like to play with us? And I had a couple years of getting good at what I did and said, yeah, okay, nice. And I ended up spending 3.5 years as the command surgeon, which means I was the senior medical officer there. And we built a new clinic, and we took care of our soldiers, and we deployed on rapid deployment missions, some of which I can't talk about for another 42 years. And, and it was an amazing experience. And what I want to tell you about that experience of mine is everything you've heard about the Delta guys is absolutely true. I have never been more in awe of soldiers and their ability to fight and shoot than I was there. And that's from a Navy SEAL to you. There's another group of Navy SEALs with SEAL Team 6 are equally competent and equally amazing. But it was after I'd finished my tour with Delta, I'm walking, I get mobilized to Iraq with the 82nd Airborne Division. And I'm literally walking home from dinner one evening about 9:30 at night, and the phone goes off and says, stand by to receive DNA evidence on number 1, meaning we had just got Saddam Hussein. Well, who's we? Delta. Pulled him out of that hole with his $1 million in cash, and I got the pictures and the DNA evidence, which we had to send back to prove it really was Saddam Hussein. And what is number 1? A lot of people don't know this. When we came into Iraq, I see our Marine over there nodding his head knowledgeably. Every bad guy on the list was given a card in a deck of 50 cards, and the ace of spades at the top was one of the last ones to be captured, and that was Saddam Hussein. But it was kind of fun to say, I know those boys. They did another great job. It was SEAL Team 6, of course, did Osama bin Laden equal kudos to their amazing abilities. But I found myself in Iraq now as a full bird colonel. Because I had started second lieutenant, worked my way up through the ranks, some years had gone by, and I don't often brag about this. It's just a statement of fact. I was at Fort Bragg and the war was starting and deployments were happening and doctors were told, coming up soon, we're going to stop these 6-month doctor deployments. We're going to go to 1-year doctor deployments. I said, take me now. So I volunteered for the last 6-month deployment because war sucks. And my Marine is nodding with equal knowledge. And it's not something you volunteer to do, it's something you do because it's your duty to do. And I found myself with the early forces right after the initial invasion, having to get off an airplane to 130-degree heat and set up clinics and bombed out airfields and try to get generators to work so we had some power, and taking baths with bottles of water for a month at a time. And by the time you pour the water on your head, it's evaporated by the time it gets to your feet, so you didn't need a towel. It was an amazing experience. And I got a chance to, for a number of months, to build a functioning medical system. So, because all the fighting's going on around us, we're in Habaniya, which is bad guy country, and the bad stuff happened. Mass casualties come to our clinic. We had to set it up from just scratch. I mean, pull it out of the boxes and make it work, and it did. And I'd been there about 4 months, and I get a call from Baghdad saying, "Hey, Colonel, we need you to come to Baghdad. Your job there is stable. Come on up, because we just received a $250,000 grant from the Agency for International Development to teach the doctors in Iraq what has changed in medicine in the last 25 years. Because a lot of people don't know this about Saddam Hussein, but he shut down that country when he took over. Doctors couldn't leave, the internets were turned off, there was no way to communicate with the outside world effectively. And so medicine for 25 years stayed exactly where it was. There was no advancements. They had no knowledge of antidepressant medications, or surgeries were all open surgeries. Laparoscopic didn't exist. Orthopedic pinning didn't exist. And so what I was tasked to do was find and bring in 32 doctors from Great Britain and the United States. We flew them into Jordan to then hop over to Iraq. And then we were going to hold a 4-day conference starting on Valentine's Day, 2004, and teach everybody what's changed. And everybody, all the talks were recorded and put on CDs. And when it was all over, 1,000 copies of the CD were made and distributed around the country. And I'm told there's about 10,000 of them out there now, because it's just, here's your Insta learning opportunity. The reason I love to tell that story is we had just got that country safe for democracy, quite honestly. And for 4 days, as the guy in charge, doctors would come up to me and hug me and cry on my shoulder and said, I never believed that this would happen in our country. God bless America. Thank you for our newfound freedoms. And that never made the news, but it happened every single day. And I'm still in contact with those doctors, and they still are thanking me for America and the opportunities they've had. 3 or 4 of them have made it to the United States or doing training programs here. But I just wanted you to know that despite other people's opinions about that war and why we were there. The people did achieve a level of freedom, and those 4 days in that conference changed the nation. And it was thanks to America and thanks for the money for the U.S. Agency of International Development. And when I left, they gave me this as a memento, and it's the Iraqi Medical Specialty Forum. And I brought it just because I love reading the engraving. It says, "Upraising the Specialty Societies, a new hope to contact the world," which is what we did. And, you know, it was fun to watch because women were doctors and women were being allowed to be doctors. But in Iraq, when we got there in 2003, 2004, a doctor would do his medical school for free at the big medical center in Baghdad in English, because the British in the 1920s or 30s had implemented English in the schools. And so it was easy to communicate with him. And I'd ask him, you know, tell me about this. And he said, well, we do our med school, then we do 1 year of residency, and then we do 13 years out in the clinics, taking care of the various remote areas of our country. And then we get to come back and do our residency and complete our medical training and pick a specialty. I go, what do you get paid? So we get $100 a month to be an outlying clinic doctor. And I went, oh, that's not very much. No, we live with our parents usually for 13 years before we get to come back and finish our residency. So why do you do it? And I love the answer. Every doctor I asked that question of told me the exact same thing. I just want to help my people. And that's such a neat thing to do, because think back to the days in the United States in the 18 and 1900s, doctors were paid in chickens and pennies, and, you know, they were doing it because they wanted to help their communities. And I saw that alive and well in Iraq. And from what I've been able to see over the years, it's still alive and well. Some, you know, monies have gone up, but not a whole lot. And that long residency program is still in place. So, you know, it was quite an honor to get a chance to work with these people. And when I rehearsed this talk, it was only 15 minutes, so I added 2 more Iraq stories to indulge me real quick. One, which was the story I just told you, where we changed a nation literally in 4 days, and I keep hearing from people who did it. The other one was when I got to come home from Iraq, and this is kind of a let's entertain story, because I was out there in a clinic, just kind of worker bee, but I was still a colonel, and that's a big deal in the military. You know, my next rank is general, and but I'm in the trenches, I'm doing doctor stuff, I'm in the mud and the blood and the beer with the best of them. And when it's time to come home, the 82nd Airborne gets its orders, and they call me back from Baghdad. You know, if you want to be home in 2 days, you need to be here in 12 hours. And we got there. And 2 things of interest happened. We loaded the C-17 mobile transport at night when the ramp was down and it was moving. And I'm going, you got to do what? You got your backpack, you've got your 60-pound ruck, you got your duffel bag, and you're running down the runway to get on a moving jet aircraft, 1 person at a time in single file. And they do that because if the plane stops, it could be a mortar target. So they're going, yeah, y'all better hurry and get on this airplane. And we all got on. The ramp went up. Never done it since. Never hope to ever do it again. But that was they see going, oh, that's what I said. What, you want me to do what? So anyway, I get on the airplane, and the 82nd Airborne is going to go to a stop further up in an Air Force base in Iraq, and then it's going to go to Turkey, and then it's going to go to a base in Germany, and each time it's going to wait for transportation, and finally wait back to Fort Bragg. And I get to that Air Force base for my first stop, and the young captain that's with me goes, yeah, Colonel, yes, did you know you can space aid direct to Germany from here and get a commercial flight home because you're a colonel? I what? How? What do I do? And they go, you just go tell the guys if you'd like to space aid for a flight to Germany, and they'll arrange to have somebody pick you up, get you on a commercial flight. You'll be home before we even get to Turkey. Okay. So I go up, you got any flights going out today? 5. Can I get on it? Have a seat. We'll let you know. 5th flight out had me on it. Another one of those big C-17s, strapped into a strapped seat on the side, and it's filled with, cargo going home, boat, vehicles. You barely had room to keep your, stuff together. But it lands in Frankfurt, Germany, and I'm going, okay, I gotta go find my bags now. And door opens, and Colonel Adams, is there a Colonel Adams? And there's a major, and his driver looking for me. Where are your bags? And we'll get them, gets the bags, puts me on, take me to the Frankfurt International Airport in their little Jeep. Well, this is kind of fun. And he goes, do you have any civilian clothes? Yeah, there's one pair in the bottom of a duffel bag. We'll find them and put them on. There's a shower over there. Your flight doesn't leave for 5 more hours. Have a nap, we'll be back. So fast forward to we're in the Frankfurt International Airport 5 hours later, and I'm in my wrinkly civilian clothes, but they're civilian nonetheless. And my bags are checked. The major hands me my tickets. Have a nice day, sir. He goes. I'm going, this is great. I'm going home. And all I've got is my little Molly pack backpack, the little camouflage backpack. And I throw it on the x-ray. I'm looking at the way out, and I'm thinking this is going to be great. And the guy at the x-ray place goes, sir, could you tell me what's in the side of your pocket of your backpack here? I don't know. I look at the picture. I go, batteries? I don't think so. I'm calling supervisor. And in comes a woman with an MP5 submachine gun, goes, would you please pull whatever's in that pocket out of it? And I pull 50 rounds of 9mm ammunition out of it. And I'm thinking, I'm not going home today. I am in big trouble in another country. And I think fast on my feet. And I look at the lady and I go, ma'am, these bullets work really well on that MP5 submachine gun you're carrying. I don't need them anymore. And she gets a little smile on her face. She goes, that would my paperwork be a lot easier. And I gave her the bullets and she let me go through. Thank you again, Lord. Watch over the idiots of this world. But that was kind of fun because they had VIP'd me through customs. Normally there's a big inspection and there's a forgiveness bag. You drop stuff like that in, and I never got that. When I showed up in Germany, I was this close to a long stay in a local jail. So got back, retired from the Army a couple years later after, marvelous time as Chief of Deployment Health, watching soldiers come and go. And, my wife and I are going, what are we going to do? I'm a family doc. I can go to any city in the world I want because there's a job for me waiting. And a letter arrives that says, well, we've got this tiny little clinic in Knightdale that needs a doctor, just a PA and a doc. And if you want it, we'll just give it to you. Mass mailing. I go, ooh, Knightdale. That's near Raleigh. That's where my son lives. Sweetheart, I'm going to go check it out. She goes, go. So I get up there, I look at it, and because I had an MBA, I read their balance sheets, and well, they can make money here. So I called her up and said, sell the house. I'm starting to work, Monday, and we're moving. And 5 days later, I called her up 4 days later, because it was on Thursday after a Monday. I said, I made a terrible mistake. I've already signed a 3-year contract, by the way. And this clinic is a disaster. Everybody's unhappy here. All the patients are drug seekers. They all want Percocets and Xanax. And, military, I didn't have to deal with that kind of problem. I don't know what I'm going to do. And she goes, excuse me, down here selling your house. Let me ask you a question. How many clinics did you run in the Army? All right, 5. Why? How many of them were disasters when you took them over? Okay, all of them. And how many ones award for excellence within a year have you taken them over? Okay, all of them. I see what you're going. Yeah, shut up and fix it. That's the woman that has guided me through life. And 11 months later, our little disaster clinic won best clinic, Eastern Wake County, across all medical specialties. And it was just too much fun. But because we did so well so fast, and I was the only family doc in that town, we had to come up with another option. How do we grow to take care of the needs of the community? This is where my MBA came in handy, because I sat down with the numbers and had been working there about a year, and I put it all down on a piece of paper and went to the local bank and I said, lend me $4 million. Huh? I'm going to build a new clinic right across the street from this clinic, and it's going to be best clinic your town's ever had, and we're going to grow it. And they went, oh, okay. Sure, you'll need some partners and some guarantees. So I brought in some other doctors and all of their, collateral and guarantees, and built a 14,000 square foot facility on the main drag through Knightdale, and it's still there today. And the engineers tell me it's their favorite building in town because, it just looks good, and I designed it, so I'm pretty happy about that. But I found as a civilian doctor a number of interesting problems. One was the bulk of my patients had diabetes, hypertension, obesity, drug use and abuse, workman's compensation claims. I didn't have any of that in the military. I had to learn real fast. And it is a fast learning process. But all of a sudden I realized the biggest difference, and those that have served in the military might not appreciate this, but the military trains its doctors at a much greater and deeper level because there's no lawyers telling doctors what they cannot do. So all my time in the military, I delivered my own babies. I did my own C-sections. I followed my kids from womb to tomb. And, you know, when people went for orthopedic surgery, I went in as first assisted. You know, then I come to the civilian world and they go, excuse me, you can't deliver babies anymore or add $90,000 to your malpractice costs. Oh, well, that's not going to happen. And how about vasectomies? Nope, that's $6,000. So I can't do any of that? Nope, can't do any of that. Just sit down and do it the way your insurance companies tell you to do it. And that's a frustrating adjustment to have insurance companies tell you what medicines you can prescribe, and they change it every year. You know, your diabetes medicines change every year because they negotiate a better deal with somebody else. And all your patients come in and going, they won't fill the prescription that I've been filling for the last year. Okay, here you go, here's your new one. And that's really frustrating, and it gets frustrating over time. But I served that community for 13 years and loved it. And, you know, I met so many neat people, including Lou Murray, one of my American heroes. And when his book gets published, I'm coming here to listen to him tell you about it. Because if you didn't know, he is writing one. And but truly, an American hero. Yeah, but you know, I look back and at those time and what I'm doing now, and you know, I see a broken system that has to change, and it inevitably will change because it's not getting better, it's getting worse. And I will tell you, the technology is there, and if you are your own advocate and you got a good doc watching out with you, we can do amazing things in medicine today that I never dreamed we could do 30 years ago. So my prayer for the future is primum non nocere. First, do no harm will be the theme of the next 10 years in our medical life. So thank you very much for letting me tell you those stories.
I'm going to ask you to sign a book.
Sure. Oh, and a plug for the Navy SEAL book and the doctor book. They're both available on audiobook. And for our remote people, buds81@aol.com is my email. If you want one, let me know. I'll send you a signed one. Today's special price is $10, and they'll be available after the meetings. Sign right here.
Yes. Thank you again, Dr. Adams, for speaking with us today. We ask our speakers to sign a book that we donate to Wake, Read, and Feed each week for kids who need books. Jerry, George, Judy, Peggy, Josh, wow. Jason, thank you all for being here today. We'd love to see you again. Next week, we have new officer inductions. And we have Cynthia Curran, who's going to be speaking with us about cybersecurity. October 7th, Dr. Joe Allen from Meredith College. And October 14th, Glenn Petty from the horse industry. Thank you all for joining us today, and we'll see you next week.